why we really say, check in with that law of familiarity, because it is a law. And because we have roughly 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and a lot of the thoughts we're having today are the same thoughts we had yesterday and the day before, and they'll be the same thoughts we have tomorrow and the next day. You got to start to think and ask yourself different questions around those 4 S's to get an
Welcome to the Hidden Investing Show with Holly Williams. Holly is the founder of KeepMore.com, author of the Hidden Investing book, general partner in over $100 million in multifamily apartment communities. In addition to multifamily holdings, Holly has been a real estate investor for over 25 years. Now here's your host, Holly Williams.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hidden Investing Podcast, episode number 2. And we have a very special guest today, Trevor McGregor, the amazing platinum diamond business coach. And I'm excited for him to be here because he taught me that mindset is everything. And I want to spend just a second and tell you just kind of how we got here. I was doing fine as a corporate fat cat. I discovered multifamily investing. My life started to really change, and I started to get very excited about the fact that Wall Street is rigged, right? And that learning that and watching my parents, suffer towards the end of their lives because they bought into you can't live on a 401k. So Trevor taught me, well, first of all, he gave me the courage. He taught me, helped me figure out what I was really good at and made me realize, no one had ever done that. And I had been taking Myers-Briggs and gone to leadership conferences and all this stuff. And, he really did help me figure out what I was truly good at, made me realize that the corporate world was never going to, I was not going to go anywhere else. And I didn't want to, most of all, and really gave me the courage to leave my 30-year career. And it was really, it's been an amazing ride. And then he taught me about mindset and taught me that, through working with him for, how long have we been working together? 4 years, something like that?
4 or 5 years now, yes.
Well, it didn't take long. It was the first year that we were working together. How I know that mindset is everything is because there was absolutely no reason why I should not leave my job. No reason whatsoever, but I was terrified, and so I honestly would not be here without him. We've got, if we're going to have a podcast, you got to get your head straight. I suggest that you take notes. Trevor's going to share with us some of the, his story, what happened to him, and he's going to share how you can do the same thing. It's not a big secret, but it's hard to consistency is key. So come on, Trevor. And he's from Australia too. Whoa. He's in Australia. So it's like, the middle of the night. It's the next day. So he says Saturday is going to be good. Here you go.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on, Holly. As always, great to be here with you and your listeners. And I applaud you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your wealth with everyone who really wants to make change, because let's be honest, change is hard. And then we all have to face change. If there's one thing that's a constant, it is change. And you're either going to, stay and play small in life, or you're going to step out and embrace change by having courage. And, I didn't used to have courage. You didn't used to have the level of courage you have, but through working on your mindset, through working on, best practices and your state and your identity and some of the things that allow you to play at a higher level, it's easier to climb the stairs by having a coach, a teacher, a mentor, a trainer, a facilitator. And to the audience, that's exactly who I am. I'm Coach Trevor McGregor. I'm a high performance, peak performance master platinum coach. I literally have dedicated my life to helping other people like Holly and all of you to go from where you are to where you truly could be. And for some of you that might be new to personal growth, or some of you might be an intermediate, or some of you might be an expert, the learning and the growing never stops. Wouldn't you agree, Holly?
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
You bet.
It's the whole thing, baby.
It is the whole thing. And my background is just like Holly's. I was a corporate slave for many, many years, working in corporate, working in the hospitality business in a head office that had restaurants and retail centers. So I was the executive director of operations. I literally did a little bit of, marketing and finance and HR and some of that stuff. And at one point in my journey in corporate, they had me invest a bunch of money into the expansion. And for the first while, it went well because I took my 401k, I took all my savings, and I even convinced my own parents to take a 6-figure second mortgage on the family home. And I dumped it into this expansion. And for the first couple of years, it went well until it didn't. And to make a really long story short, we were expanding across 5 major cities in Canada, which is, where I'm from. I'm currently in Australia, but born and raised in Canada. And as we were expanding, we really were going too fast. We couldn't hang on. And to make a long story short, I lost all of that money, all of it gone, every piece of my savings, all my 401k. And I didn't even know how I was going to tell my parents. I just lost all of this money. So what do you do when you're down and out? Well, thank God for me, I hired a coach. And that coach changed my life because he said, Trevor, what's happened to you is unfortunate, but you're still a young man. You got to get up, dust yourself off, and, keep on keeping on. And I said, but I don't know how I'm going to, pay back these loans. And he said one thing, Holly, that changed my life forever. He said, have you ever thought of investing in real estate? And I said, real estate? I don't know anything about real estate. And he said, you can use other people's money and borrow that, buy a property, fix it up, and flip it or keep it or rent it or refinance it. And you know what? Then you can kind of rinse and repeat and keep going. And Holly, my back was up against the wall. I didn't know anything else to do. So I listened to him because he was fairly successful. And I bought my first little property. And that was a good experience in Vancouver because we were seeing appreciation. Refinanced that, bought a second property. Then I bought a third that was a duplex. And that's when I discovered what cash flow was. And in a relatively short amount of time, I started making more money by buying all of these little properties than I made in corporate. And so I ended up quitting my corporate job, doing real estate, paid back my parents in full. And people would come to me and say, can you show me what you're doing? How are you doing this? And Holly, that's when the coaching bug bit. And I'll take a pause there to allow you to reflect. And then I'll share how I went and started working for the man, the myth, the legend. Yes, Mr. Tony Robbins. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's an amazing story. And it just goes to show you, I always say 2 things. Number one, that real estate has always, since the beginning of time, been the measure of wealth. In the medieval age, yes. All of that, you voted. Landowners controlled the whole thing. The crown, controlled the whole thing. Our country in America, we were, the whole reason we're even here is because the crown in England, wanted to expand the territory. It's all about expanding the territory. So it's a universal law. And it's also a universal law that life gets bigger. Trees grow again. Right. The universe, whatever it is on the side of good. It really is.
That's it.
And it is so very hard when you're in the middle of all of that, to know that. And it's still, you can still get upset. I know you do. I know Joe Fairless does. I mean, everybody gets down. And that's why it's so important. This whole idea of a tribe and this whole idea of who you spend your time with and hanging around the people that you want to be like, and Trevor is the kind of guy I want to be like, he's living it.
Well, it's mutual because for us to leave what we call the familiar, that is the corporate journey, or to invest in real estate, or to, do something different, with our finances that we've never done before, it can be difficult because we're only familiar with what we've done in the past, but the past does not dictate the future unless you live there. And for all of us listening, ask yourself, is it time to step out of the familiar past and into the present to create what Holly and I call your predictable future? Because that's what happened to me. And I'll pick up my story from there, because as people started to come to me, it was my son's little league baseball coach that said, Trevor, you're buying all these properties and you left your corporate job. Can you show me what you're doing so I can do that? And I said, well, buy me a case of beer. I'll sit down with you and your wife and I'll lay out the blueprint. And I did it. And within 3 weeks, Holly, 3 weeks, they had bought their first rental property. Then they went on and 4 months later bought their second. Right after that, they bought their third, and they started to see that there was a new way of thinking and behaving that could radically change their financial future forever. And as I started to show more people, the swim coach, a soccer coach, all these different people, the coaching bug bit. And I was working with my own coach with Tony Robbins Group at the time. And the coach said to me, Trevor, you're so passionate about coaching and so passionate about business and so passionate about real estate. Tony's looking to hire more business coaches. Would you ever consider coming on part-time? And I said, well, I'm not an official coach. I could probably not, help that many people because I was thinking small. And he absolutely challenged my mindset. And he said, you know what, for you to grow, the secret to living is giving. And if you will come on part-time, we'll teach you everything you need to know. And Holly, that's when I got the opportunity to go work for the man, the myth, the legend. Yes, Mr. Tony Robbins himself. I joined Tony's team part-time, fell in love with it. That quickly became full-time. And so there I was working for Tony, growing my real estate, working for Tony, growing my real estate. And it got to the point where I was helping so many people within the Robbins community and so many people outside of the Robbins community. And I was so busy investing in my own empire and portfolio that, man, it came like big, hard, and fast. And I loved it because I could start to see people all around me, in this tribe, as you call it, starting to change their financial futures. And that's when it got really exciting because I met this little guy by the name of Joe Fairless, who we mutually know. And Joe was big into real estate. And when I met him, he owned 4 single-family homes. We started coaching in 2013 together, and then 2014 and 2015. And I literally watched this guy from Texas go from owning 4 little houses in Texas worth about $60,000 a piece to now having close to $3 billion in apartment buildings and assets under management. Well, how did Joe go from, here to here? Well, I helped a little bit, but it was him conditioning his mind for success.
I was there.
And then going out there and surrounding himself with people like you, people like me, people like his partners, and growing his team to now where life is a lot different.
He had nothing.
I know.
And I remember writing that first check to you, and I thought, if my husband knew I was doing this, still, if he knew I was doing this, he would, and it has paid huge dividends. And I can remember Joe being broke and going, I'm like, what is he doing? Seriously, but
that's what the people that are ready for change do. You said it first. They find a tribe. Second of all, they find a mentor or a coach. And third of all, they never, ever stop reading or listening to amazing podcasts like this or going to conferences. I mean, how many conferences have we been all over America together, right? We can't even count them. Whether we're in Denver, we're in Salt Lake, we're in, Minnesota. Again, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what level you're at. This could be the start of you really understanding what the 1% wealthy know that you don't. But now it's time to plug into that.
And it's Holly. The tribe and people around. We're not taught any of this. We are not taught. As a matter of fact, the people that teach us don't want us to know any of this.
That's right.
And so you're surrounded. When you started, I bet you when you started, you're broke. You just lost all this money. And all we hear about on the news, is Bernie Madoff and how everything's crashing. The whole world's going to end. And I bet you people around you thought you were crazy. Like, what the hell are you doing? You're just going from the frying pan to the fire.
That's it. Well, the same thing with you leaving the advertising business, me leaving my corporate background. It's like, we leave this safety net and the known to step into the unknown. And it takes, a lot of courage, a lot of, late nights, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, wondering, am I really doing the right thing? But if you look at anybody that's ever done anything great, you take a look at Richard Branson or Oprah Winfrey or Elon Musk or J.K. Rowling, they had to turn down the volume of the noise of what everyone else was saying around them to claim their greatness and step into a belief that they could be, do, and have more in this lifetime. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And you can just watch Elon Musk and what he's doing. And for a minute there, he had everybody against him. I mean, it was crazy, and still, still kind of does, but
it does. I mean, that's how it is. And again, not everyone's going to like your idea. Not everyone's going to like your desire. And so there's 3 modalities of fear you have to get over. And if you're open to it, let's share those with the listeners right now.
Write this down, everybody.
Yeah. The 3 modalities of fear are, number 1, if I try, I could fail. Right? So write that down. Number 1, if I try, I could fail. If I try to leave my corporate job, I could fail. If I try to buy real estate, what if it doesn't work out? If I try to pool a bunch of people's money together and do something different, like start a business, what if the business fails? So the first modality of fear is, if I try, I could fail. Sound familiar?
Yeah, very, very familiar. I'm writing it down again.
Let's go to number 2, because number 2 is, people might not like my idea, or worse yet, they'll criticize me. Oh no, people might not like my idea, or worse yet, they'll criticize me. You're not leaving your corporate job, are you? You're crazy, right? You're not starting a home-based business. Oh, didn't you know 96% of businesses fail in the first year? Or you're not doing this, buying real estate. You're going to have trouble with tenants, toilets, and termites. I wouldn't do that if I were you, right? So people call you out. They say boo, and they steal your dream. That's number 2. And then, Holly, number 3 is really, I'm not worthy of success. That's for other people. I should just be happy with what I've got. You know, I've got a job, I've got a house, I got a car, I got a spouse, I got a couple of kids. I don't need anything else. I'm just going to kind of eke out a living and play small. Well, I'm telling you that those 3 modalities of fear are universal. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, if you're in America, Australia. Absolutely. But the goal is to work on the mindset and to bring in something that I've taught you, and I've taught Joe, and I've taught Tyler Chesser, and all the people in our tribe, called the law of polarity. The law of polarity. So what's that? Well, there's this little law, kind of like the law of gravity, that says if you jump off the roof of your house, you're going down, right? Well, the law of polarity decrees and means that every single thing on this planet has a polar opposite to it. Okay, so you can't have day without night. You can't have black without white. You can't have masculine energy without feminine energy, and you certainly couldn't have the North Pole without the South Pole. So what has that got to do with anything? Well, if you bring the law of polarity to those 3 modalities of fear and you flip them 180 degrees, here's what it sounds like. Number 1, if I try, I could fail. When you turn it around, becomes, well, if I try, I could succeed, or I could be successful in leaving my job, investing in real estate, starting an e-commerce business. Number 2, people might not like me, or they might criticize me. Well, let's flip that around, that people could be, holy mackerel, I love you're doing that. Congratulations. I'm inspired by you. I'd like to joint partner or JV with you and do something in real estate, right? They could get on your train. And that whole number 3 thing is a big self-worth, self-esteem, and bunch of BS, right? Because I'm telling you guys this, that if you apply the law of polarity to number 3, you'll soon remember that abundance is your birthright. You've got just as much opportunity to go out there and crush it as Holly or Coach Trevor or Joe or anyone else that's ever, taken that leap of faith and been successful. So for any of you that want to embrace the law of polarity and leave the law of familiarity to step into the law of unfamiliarity, you will start to attract the people, the resources, the podcasts, the coaches, the opportunities like you've never done before, because you're defiantly committed to living a different life. And so, Holly, I'll let you reflect on all of those, my friend.
I mean, it's just amazing. And, I always say too, that, for every good thing, there's a bad side. There's always, every drug you take has side effects, every one of them. Yeah. And so you have to weigh the cost, and the risk with the thing, and I hear people, I never listen to people that don't have what I want, people get online and, people will follow people that they don't even know who they are. And they're like on Twitter or something, and they'll say, you don't need a college degree to buy we don't need a college degree. So these kids quit school and they have no idea what they want to do, so it's like, there's a fine line there. And because the law of polarity, I mean, yes, many people have failed in real estate. Many people have failed in the corporate world. Many people will, but again, it's not a zero-sum game either.
Correct.
Just because you are successful, that helps me. Right.
Yeah. What I love about you saying that. Yeah. What I love about that, and the loop you're opening up for the listener, is really, it doesn't all happen in a straight line. You don't fail, and then all of a sudden your life and everything is perfect. It's more like a roller coaster where you fail, you go down, you get up, you dust yourself off, you go up, then you go down, then you go up a little more, and then you do a loop-de-loop and you think you're going to fall out of the roller coaster. I mean, we've certainly had enough experiences at, not just in real estate, but in finance and relationships and health. I mean, all categories, right? And I really believe, Holly, it's a true core belief of mine that the reason we have challenges is to overcome them, to find a way to go around them or under them or through them. And the best way to do that is to learn from people like you who've literally done so much in corporate, in real estate, in infinite banking, right? In crypto, in writing the book and becoming a best-selling author. And now you've got this amazing podcast where the only thing that you're doing is really trying to help other people to learn a little bit more what you know so that they can turn what we call decades into days. I mean, why take 10 years to figure it out, folks, when you can listen to Holly and Trevor and some of the other guests on this amazing platform, because they're going to shorten your learning curve and share some tips and tools and methodologies for you to condition this 3-pound mass between your ears called your brain.
That's right.
What do you think, Holly?
That's right. And, I'm so grateful for everything that I did, how I got here. I probably did it a little longer, but I got to tell you, I've been to the Super Bowl, the car services. I mean, there are some advantages. I was having a good time, but I think that that's a mindset thing, right? And so I think that the biggest, most powerful thing that I learned from you was to really figure out what you helped me figure out what I was good at and what I wanted to do. And because in the corporate world, we're brought up in the school too, we want to get the boss promoted. That's what you do in the corporate world. If you get your boss promoted, if you get your client promoted, then you just go up with them, right? I have the hardest time promoting myself. And a lot of it is just come on if you want to. That's sort of my attitude at this point, right? But I'm in a little different place in life. I can't imagine. I didn't have the courage to do this when I was completely broke. Yeah. And I always have to have a plan B and C, which is what I love about real estate. Because in the stock market, it's a casino. And in real estate, when the economy gets like it is now, we've already planned for this. We've got levers we can. We've already planned for this. Do I wish it was going better and all this stuff? Do I wish that but it doesn't matter because we're still getting cash flow.
Well, that's what I love about it, and that's partly what I didn't say about my story. Is as I went on and helped more people, I started to leverage leaving some of those single-family homes and duplexes and fourplexes to join Holly and Joe and Tyler Chesser and a lot of people to buy apartment buildings. So through real estate syndications and pooling a bunch of investors together, it's unbelievable how you can pull these levers and take down big 100 to 200 unit buildings in places like Texas or Florida or the Carolinas or Atlanta or Nashville. And my wife and I are proud to own, partnerships in so many different things right now in multifamily, self-storage, agricultural land. We've bought into resorts in Costa Rica. We've even invested in companies as far away as Australia. And that's not to beat on our chest. It's just that, my goodness, if I look at my days in corporate and I look at where I am today and how I was able to close that gap, again, it's not for the faint of heart. And not every one of those deals has been perfect, but roughly 95% of them have been very, very good. And again, it's really understanding that real estate, like you said, has been around for thousands of years and people need a place to live. I just don't think there's any other as good, investment opportunity for consistent growth on the planet.
Well, and I love the way people think that, oh my God, that's risky and the stock market. I understand that. One investor told me, oh, well, I understand the stock market. I don't understand this. I mean, it was like, if you understand the stock market, I don't know anybody that understands the stock market. You have Apple stock. What are their margins?
Yeah.
We don't.
Well, I think it's more than that. For somebody that maybe does know a little bit and they trade themselves and they've got their finger on the pulse, that's okay. But if you're just handing your money over to a broker,
correct,
right? If you're just handing your money over to, somebody that says, let me take care of that for you, you're fooling yourself. If you don't know, and Tony Robbins wrote an amazing book called Money Master the Game.
Yep.
And if you really knew the marketing fees that you're charged, all the different fees that you're charged, the opportunity for you to make a return on your money is almost next to nothing, right? Year over year over year. And I don't know who would sign up for something like that because, when I think of the word broker, right? They're called a broker because they're broker than you, right? And they pool all this money and they make their 6-figure salary and they got these big expense accounts and these offices. Well, Holly, somebody's got to pay for that.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody's got to pay for that. And I think people forget that by joining forces with you or Keep More or, some of the other sponsors out here and syndicators, they don't have to muck around with some of that stuff. Their money goes into buying real estate. It's real. You can go visit it. You can kick it. You can tenant it. You can rehab it. You can fix it up. You can refinance it. And if you don't know what all that means, talk to Holly and she'll teach it to you. But I'm telling you, I would not be where I'm at today and have this lifestyle that I've been blessed to have. And it's not been easy, but it's been a lot of fun without investing in real estate.
And that's the entire reason that I'm doing this podcast. And the reason I wrote the book is because if the 10 myths that I outline in my book are a lot of what you just talked about. And if you don't believe that, see, once you know, you can't not know. So
that's right. That's what I love about it. Once you learn it, you can't unlearn it.
You can't.
It's almost like, when I take you or Joe or Tyler through what we call the 4 S's of stepping into your best self. And so there's 4 words, Holly, that all start with the letter S.
Write this down,
that
guys.
Once you know them, you can't unknow them or can't unlearn them. And the first one is you got to change your state. And your state refers to your focus because you're either focused on what you don't want, folks, or you're going to focus on what you do want. And I'm sure you want financial freedom or time freedom or geographical freedom or freedom to make impact or freedom to hang around with kick-ass people like Holly Williams, right? So you got to change your focus and you got to change your beliefs that you can plug into that. Does that make sense, Holly?
Yes, and everyone can do this. That's what's so
incredible. You got it. Number 2, you bet, is your story. So we're going to move from number 1, your state, to number 2, your story. And your story is really your identity. It's who you believe you are. And if you believe you're a victim to being a corporate slave, or you're a victim to the government, or you're a victim to interest rates, or you're a victim to the current life you have, you've got to get out of the victim and step into victor and move towards victory.
Once you're a victim,
so go back and start to think of all those times. That's right. Once you really start to see that, what you can go from whatever circumstances you're in right now to a better place, it starts with you aligning an identity of, a belief, something in your core or in your gut that you deserve more. And if you look around, there's people like Trevor or Holly or Joe or Tyler or some of the other people in our tribe. And Holly and I have a big tribe at this stage that literally also worked in corporate jobs. They also were in a bad, marriage. They also had unruly kids or something going on, aging parents, where that's called life, folks. But you've got to get past a lot of that and step into your best self if you want to grow. What do you think, Holly?
I think you're right. I think that
you bet.
You're Trevor. We think that the obstacles are money or, I don't live in the right place.
Never.
The obstacles are exactly what you're talking about. It's all up
That's
here.
It. That's right. And remember, this brain is there to keep you safe and to keep you alive. And that's a good thing, but not if you want to grow and step into this next best chapter. So once you start changing your state, which is number one, and your story, which is number two, and move from victim towards victor, we go to number three. And that is a big one, Holly. It is your standards. Your standards. Because I can tell you guys this, that the quality of your life will be in direct proportion to you raising your standards. So maybe you got to raise your standards and read more books, or maybe you got to raise your standards and listen to more podcasts like this one. Right. Or maybe you got to raise your standards and go to a real estate event. I mean, if we counted the number of real estate events that Holly and I have been to, oh my God, we probably need a calculator.
Right.
Because we had a standard to find a new tribe, a standard to learn, a standard to grow. And we don't profess to know everything, even at this stage. No. We're still going to conferences. In fact, Holly, I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at the next one in person.
I can't wait.
So I can't wait either. So why am I saying this? Well, again, if you take what we call a personal inventory of your standards, how are you showing up in your health right now? How are you showing up with your significant other? How are you showing up with your kid or your kids? How are you showing up with your finances? How are you showing up in tithing or giving to, some charities? How are you showing up in learning how to, acknowledge that this brain is like a piano, right? And a piano needs someone to come in and tune that piano if the piano is going to play better. So sometimes we got to pull on the wires in the piano and change the tension. And that's exactly what the state, the story, and the standards is meant to do. So before we go to the fourth one, Holly, any comment?
Well, it's just, that's the way it is, right? I mean, this is
the way it is.
These are truths that Trevor's talking about. And we're so grateful that, I'm here and able to listen to it. And it's an amazing thing, bet. Right?
Yeah. And Tony Robbins talks about this at Business Mastery and Date with Destiny and Unleash the Power Within. And so, you know what? You don't just have to, invent this yourself. There's tons of material out there, either on the internet or go to a live event where you can learn and step into this.
Steal
and
it.
That takes us to the fourth one. Yeah, that's right.
It's okay. Nobody cares if you steal it.
Well, I remember telling Holly once to write these 4 S's down on a Post-it note and put it up in her office where she could see it consciously and subconsciously all day long.
Right.
Because that's how powerful they are. Because once you align your state, your story, and your standards, and you make them better, the 4th S is your strategy. Yes, your strategy. That is, how do we help you go from where you are to where you want to be without you having to reinvent the wheel? Because somebody like Holly has a roadmap, has a recipe, has a blueprint, and has a GPS that if you tap into Holly's recipe, roadmap, blueprint, or GPS, you can get to your outcome a heck of a lot faster than if you ever tried to do it on your own.
That's right.
And that's why these 4 S's go together. And it's just whether you want to call them the super S's or the 4 S's, whatever you want to term them, just think about that, and maybe go back to a time in your life where you were playing small or you had to create change or you had to do something. I almost guarantee if you look back and do something we call back to the future, that you had to change your focus. You had to believe in who you were. You had to raise your standards, and you had to have a blueprint to help you go from where you were to where you wanted to be. Yep. Well, folks, guess what? You can rinse and repeat this every day, every week, every month, every year. And again, people often overestimate, Holly, what they can do in a short amount of time, but they underestimate what they could do in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. And that, my friend, is a recap of the 4 S's.
Well, I think that is a good place today to kind of start to wind down, because I don't think that you can't top that, right? Because it's
powerful. It's
powerful, and it's the beginning. It really is the center. You talk about trying, it talks about a lot of things, right? But you've got to have a foundation to the house, right? And that you just talked about, you gotta, to move forward, I had to really believe what you were talking about. And it's hard because we're not, you have to unlearn. Unlearning's harder than learning.
Yep.
Right?
That's
they
it.
Just don't.
And that's why we really say, check in with that law of familiarity, because it is a law. And because we have roughly 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, get your head around this, 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And a lot of the thoughts we're having today are the same thoughts we had yesterday and the day before. And they'll be the same thoughts we have tomorrow and the next day. You got to start to think and ask yourself different questions around those 4 S's to get a new level of thinking and a new level of possibility so that you can then go out there and take what we call intelligent and inspired action.
That's
right? And intelligent means smart. Inspired means you don't have to, but you get to. And you didn't have to leave corporate. I didn't have to leave corporate. Joe didn't have to leave corporate, but we chose because we knew that it would challenge us. It would get us out of our comfort zone, but that life could be more amazing on the other side.
And it is. And I just am so happy that you joined today. I am so happy that lots of people pushed me to do this, to start this podcast. You know, it's something that fabulous. I really didn't want to do. Not that I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want, you know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And, you know, I like, who would want to listen to that? Right. But that's the same thing. It's the old stuff, you know, talking. And so I'm really, really, really grateful that you're here and that everybody's listening. And we will see you in a couple of weeks, right?
That's right. Yes. Looking forward to seeing you and a whole bunch of our tribe, our community. And before we wrap, I want to leave the listener with 2 things, Holly, because I'm a big believer that in order for things to change, you must be the one that initiates change. So that is, you know, check in with your 4 S's, think about some of the things we've talked about here. But also the 2 things I want to mention is, number 1, how hungry are you for change? I mean, do you want an appetizer or do you want the buffet? Because they're both available. And I don't think that we're just here to minimize possibility. I think we're here to maximize it. And remember what Holly said at the beginning of the podcast, that, you know, we live in a world of abundance, right? We live in a world where anything is possible. If you get around the right people and you've got the right, you know, goals and you've got a blueprint that can get you there and you're hungry for it, you want to just check in with how hungry you are, because the hungrier you are, I think the better people that you just attract and find and, you know, have you step into their circle. The second thing, and then I'll let you reflect on it, is really passion. How passionate are you about this next chapter of your life? You know, how defiantly committed are you to making it bigger or better or helping more people or getting around people? Because I'm telling you, that's really something that if you check in with your hunger and you reignite the passion, where there's hunger and passion, there's possibility and profit.
And focus.
And if you talk to people like Holly Williams, they will lay out a roadmap, that recipe, that blueprint. And I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed in tapping into that beautiful brain of Holly.
How do people contact you? Can they hire you to help them like I hired you to help me? I mean, how does that all work these days?
Well, thank you. Yeah. You know, I've got a few different things because, again, I'm a high performance coach. I work one-on-one with people like Holly, people like Joe. So yes, if you go to my website, you can find me at trevormcgregor.com. That's TREVOR.
And we'll put links all through here as well.
REGOR. Thank you. But I also have something really unique, Holly. I've got my own, you know, personal program called Rich Beyond Belief.
Oh, wow.
And it's a brand new private podcast that I've started where if you go to my website, you can learn all about it. And it's really an 8-week private podcast where I teach you the best mindset, the best goal setting tools, the best time management mastery systems. It's the best of the best of the best of what I've learned after doing over 30,000 coaching sessions, which, by the way, is an actual statistic.
Unbelievable.
And I literally drip it on you for 8 weeks for less than a nice dinner out, a nice steak, and a nice bottle of wine. It's less than a couple $100. It can be in your inbox and on your phone instantly so that you can listen to it when you're driving. You can listen to it when you're in the gym. You can listen to it while you're, you know, running the kids to soccer practice. I absolutely love it. And I've got so many people saying that it's absolutely changed the way that they tap into those 4 S's.
Okay, so we're putting a link here. And you guys, I mean, seriously, forget it. Don't go out to dinner this weekend and do this.
No, you can do both. Go out for dinner and get the Rich Beyond Belief program. Trust me.
I hear you.
Abundance is the mindset. Holly.
I know. I hear you. But, you know, anyway. But listen, thank you so much. And we will talk soon. We'll see everybody soon. And thanks to everybody.
All right. Thanks for having me on and keep up the great work.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Hidden Investing Show. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with your friends and family. To get an exclusive gift, visit hiddeninvesting.com.